Billy the Kid was born Henry McCarty in 1859, in a time and place where the law was often just a vague idea. The Wild West, a vast and untamed land where survival required wit and strength, was the backdrop of his childhood, marked by violence, poverty, and loss. His mother, struggling to survive, lost her battle with life and death, leaving Billy and his brother orphaned at a young age. The child who began his life with an ordinary name would soon be shaped by the brutality and harshness of the world around him, creating a man who would become one of the most legendary outlaws in American history. Over time, Billy, still young, became a name feared in the small towns and villages around New Mexico. His fame began to grow when, at 18 years old, he was accused of killing a sheriff, and his journey as a fugitive began. What many didn't know was that he wasn't just a criminal, but an extremely clever man who moved through the vastness of the West with an extraordinary ability to escape the authorities. Every time he seemed cornered, he slipped through the law's grasp, creating a myth that quickly spread, and his ability to vanish into the shadows became almost supernatural. The man that no one could catch became a symbol of rebellion and resistance. The West does not forgive, and the circumstances surrounding Billy drove him further into the abyss of illegality. His relationship with key figures of the time, such as Pat Garrett, a sheriff determined to capture him, became inevitable. Garrett, with his relentless sense of justice, was shaped by a code of honor that forced him to pursue Billy as if it were his life's mission. As much as Garrett chased him, Billy didn't just settle for simple escape. He turned every encounter into a game of chess, where every move he made seemed always ahead of the law. What motivated Billy? Was it revenge, survival, or something deeper, a desire to defy convention and live freely, without the pressure of authority over his life? Over time, Billy the Kid's fame grew. He became the man to be hunted, the fugitive that everyone wanted to capture, but no one could. Every time a capture seemed imminent, he managed to escape, further building his legend. He was a shadow, a symbol of freedom that few dared to wish for. His deeds, his escapes, and his bravery became stories told throughout the territory, and the myth of Billy the Kid spread like wildfire. The pursuit was no longer just about justice, but about the fight against a man who defied the rules and the established order, someone who would never surrender. The relentless Sheriff Pat Garrett was finally determined to capture Billy the Kid, and the final hunt between the two rivals seemed inevitable. After years of escaping from posses and bounty hunters, Billy knew his luck was about to change. Garrett, now famous for his relentless pursuit, gathered a group of men to corner the last hope of capture. Billy could not escape this time. The showdown was set, the stage was ready, and the West was boiling with tension. The men were willing to do anything to capture Billy, and Billy himself knew that another escape would not be possible. But he still had something the others did not: cunning. Billy the Kid, always a step ahead, was preparing for what seemed like the final showdown of his life. Knowing he could no longer rely on his ability to escape, he decided to face the inevitable. His strategy was not to flee, but to confront Garrett in a different way. He had studied the terrain, knew the weaknesses of the men who surrounded him, and had a plan no one expected. For Billy, this showdown would be the ultimate test of his ability to manipulate fate in his favor. Tensions were rising, The clock seemed to be ticking faster, and Billy knew that time was running out. However, as always, fate seemed to be against Billy. The showdown would not happen in the way he had expected. Garrett and his men arrived faster than Billy anticipated, surrounding him before he could react. The ambush was set, and Billy's plan would soon unravel. But instead of giving up, he used his intellect, his ability to adapt, to try and turn the game in his favor once again. Billy the Kid's final battle would not only be about courage, but about strategy and survival. A battle where even the most improbable move could make the difference between life and death. The death of Billy the Kid is shrouded in mystery, and to this day, many question whether what really happened on that fateful moment was the end of the outlaw or just another part of his legend. The official version, upheld by Pat Garrett, is that Billy was killed in 1881 at Fort Sumner after being ambushed in his attempt to flee. The traditional story tells of a Billy on the run, a man who, despite his efforts, ultimately succumbed to the relentless pursuit of the law. However, like many tales of the Old West, this version is far from unquestionable. What really happened in Billy the Kid's final hours? Was his death a betrayal? Or, as some theories suggest, did he simply escape, faking his own death to live free? Garrett's version was widely publicized, and over the years, he was celebrated as the man who brought the legend of Billy the Kid to an end. However, several inconsistencies in the story began to emerge. Eyewitness accounts suggest that Billy may not have been killed that day, or that he might have escaped shortly after being declared dead. Additionally, documents and later investigations suggest that Garrett, in his pursuit of fame and prestige, may have manipulated the narrative surrounding Billy's death, creating a story that was more palatable for the public of the time. Garrett had captured Billy, but did he really kill him, or was it a stroke of luck that sealed the fate of a legend? Over time, other theories began to emerge suggesting that Billy the Kid might have escaped his own death. Some believed that he had faked his death to escape the clutches of the law and live freely, away from the notoriety that haunted him. Various witnesses over the years claimed to have seen Billy alive long after his supposed death, and some historians argue that Garrett himself may have lied about the events in order to end his own pursuit once and for all. What is certain is that the death of Billy the Kid left more questions than answers, further perpetuating his legend over the years. Billy the Kid, although he died under mysterious circumstances and his legend was shaped over time, left an indelible mark on the history of the Wild West. His life and death symbolized something much greater than the deeds of a criminal. It represented resistance against an unyielding system and an insatiable pursuit of freedom. Even after his death, his figure became an icon, a symbol of rebellion, and his name echoed in every corner of the West, passed down from generation to generation. The way Billy the Kid faced the system and authorities, never submitting, made him a figure both admired and feared. His legend spread with the force of a storm, told in books, movies, and songs. Even as the years passed and various theories about his death emerged, Billy the Kid's legacy remained intact. The West would not be the same without his story, without the man who defied the system and became a living legend. In many cultures around the world, Billy was seen not just as an outlaw, but as a symbol of resistance, the fight against oppression, and an indomitable spirit. His legend served as a reflection of the time, a period when the boundaries of morality were thin and laws were often ignored, creating fertile ground for heroes and villains to blur together. Billy the Kid, both hero and villain, is still revered as one of the greatest myths of the American West. The name Billy the Kid became synonymous with an era and a way of life where the law was optional, and men made their own rules. His death, marked by mystery and doubt, only helped to strengthen the myth surrounding him, ensuring that his name would last through generations, not only as the name of a criminal, but as that of a man who defied convention and fought for his freedom until his last breath. His story continues to inspire films, books, and songs, showing that in a world where boundaries are drawn by strength and courage, he will be remembered as the man who never submitted, the man who lived and died for freedom.